Remember, 10 minutes.
10 minutes, you say? Okay.
Yes. Okay, ready to go? Take it away.
I'll time myself as well. Yeah, thanks a lot. Well, first and foremost, welcome everybody. It's a great honor to be here, to have been invited, and I am really aware of the wonderful predecessors that have already spoken tonight. So I'm not sure how I'm going to fill those enormous shoes, but well, try I must. And to begin with, I would like you to notice the S in brackets, the S in the word hands. I'm not going to explain to you just yet why it's there and why it is in red, but bear with me for the next few minutes and I hope it will become clear. Now, speaking of EFL journeys, I think it's fair to say that I have come rather a long way in this profession, but actually I'm not going to talk much about any specifics, and in this way this contribution of mine is going to be rather different from everybody else's. You know, I began straight after graduating from the English department of Warsaw University, and kind of predictably I became a private language school tutor, and perhaps less predictably also an academic lecturer at a teacher training college, as well as an English department in Warsaw. And that went on for several years, after which I gradually moved into other professional roles, a materials reviewer, materials writer, and above all, for the purpose of this talk, I sort of morphed more and more into teacher training for various organizations like Macmillan Education, IATF Poland, British Council, ION Teacher Training Center, DOS, ELT, and a number of other organizations. Now, what matters for the purpose of this talk is that this new role of a teacher trainer, public speaker, obviously involved the need to appear in front of various audiences, large and small. And in order to be able to deliver my content, I also had to use some sort of projection technology. Now, since I've been around for rather a long time, you know, I started out with good old OHTs, which most of you probably don't know what they are, you know, overhead transparencies. And then gradually I started using the clicker, you know, and PowerPoint slides. And this meant having to juggle at least two of these crucial devices, the microphone and the clicker, coupled with holding flashcards, handouts, book samples, not to mention the need to gesticulate. And in case you're wondering why am I going on and on about this, well, you see, it is because there is or was or has been this rather minor problem. This. Now, you probably don't know what that is. Radial bone aplasia, so I need to show you. That's what the problem is. And you see, I mean, put it bluntly, I simply did not have enough palms or enough fingers. And it's a birth defect. And so it's something that I lived with for years and developed a certain number of, if you like, compensating techniques. You know, I ride a bicycle, I drive a car, I tie my shoelaces ever since an American friend of mine sent me, and this is years and years ago, a wonderful pair of Reebok trainers, which I wasn't able to use unless I learned how to tie shoelaces myself. So, you know, I functioned quite well and did not consider myself disabled in any way until I found myself up on the stage in front of total strangers. And as you can imagine, the first reaction was that I was completely mortified. All I could think of was that I simply do not have enough holding devices. So I'm going to have to do all this extra clumsy juggling, and B, and most importantly, this will draw everybody's attention exclusively to this wretched left palm of mine, and they will be at the very least completely distracted from all of my content and probably focused only on my disability. And you know, it went on for some time, I have to say, until I finally realized that, you know, as they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And honestly, gosh, it really did the trick for me. So much so, in fact, that over the years, I have changed the whole approach to how I wish to appear as a public persona, if you like. And I would like to show you what I do with a microphone these days. I have a fairly recent photograph. That's what happens at the moment. As you can see, I make a point of using a mic rather than one of those Madonna, you know, headsets, which I hate. And I press it centrally to my chest with my left hand, you know, sort of protruding, so to speak, leaving the right one free to gesticulate, to use the clicker and so on. And if you believe my dear wife, Anya, overcoming this initial fear, the fear of being exposed, has become a sort of unique strength of mine. And that's what I believe is something worth sharing. It's a certain ease that I now have with people who I meet for the first time, as my trainees, as my audience members, etc. And the ease, as I see it now, comes from me standing in front of them sort of as I truly am, not trying to hide anything. And it's as if I was saying to them, look, that's who I am, that's what I look like, I do not make any fuss about it anymore. So I just want you to simply judge me on merit, on what I have to offer, rather than how many fingers I have or haven't got. And then, you know, a few years later, a miracle happened. I got a phone call from a lady who introduced herself as a teacher of English, and she told me that she'd seen me several times presenting for Macmillan, and then obviously uncomfortable and apologetic, she said that in one of her lower primary classes, she had this boy, Peter, a boy with, as you can see, his left hand very much like mine. And she wanted to say that he was a great kid, well integrated and all, but she said he would still benefit from meeting somebody who had a similar problem and dealt with this successfully. And I said, well, sure, I'll be delighted, but I didn't want him to meet me and feel that he was being singled out because of his disability. So we arranged an event for parents and kids at that school near Warsaw, and he was sitting in the second row with his mom. I gave my talk, and after the talk, she came up, and you know, he was by her side, and we started talking. And at one point, I realized that one of my shoes came untied. So I reached down very quickly and tied it up. And then I rose, and I saw his eyes popping, because of course he didn't know how to do this. So I said to him, look, do you want me to teach you? And he said, yes. So I reached down, did it again. And he said, well, not so quickly. And I said, all right, so let's arrange a proper training session where I will be there for you with your mom and dad present, of course, and I will, you know, take it in steps for you to learn it properly. And he did. And next year, as it happened, we did this together for a bunch of other kids. Kids that were gathered by his mom, because as you see, that's the miracle of education. His mom turned out to be the founder and leader of a society of parents with children, for children with hand disability. And so they have annual meetings, and the next annual meeting I was there with Piotr, and we did a session together showing other small kids how to tie shoelaces properly for the first time. And this, I can tell you, was the most powerful and most rewarding teaching and or teacher training session that I ever had in my life. And that's what I wanted to share with you. And that is the bit of ELT ELT journey of mine that I thought was relevant. Thank you very much for listening.
Wow, I'm speechless. That was wonderful. And I knew what you were going to talk about, and I didn't expect it to be that good. That was great.
Well, it's, you know, I thought you guys deserve something real, something honest and authentic. And it's the first time I talked about this in public.
Really?
Well,
well, you know, there must be a first time for everything, right? So
yeah, well,
I'm glad you liked it. And
I'm so glad you did it for us today. That was really an inspiration to everybody. Thank you, Grzegorz.
my pleasure.